freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Headlines.
We're Smooth 98.1 FM, 29 minutes before it is top of the hour, 8 o'clock, and it's time for us to dig into the newspaper headlines this morning. It's called Freshly Pressed, and we can assure you that your paper headlines are as dried as possible, like you like it. But then we can tell you it is rainy out there. Uh, well, for some, it might be some respite that maybe this may just be that rain that douses all of that sweatiness you get to feel when you go to bed at night, even in the absence of the winking light that comes and at interval and goes away. But let me make welcome the gentleman this morning. Chibuzor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Amas. Good morning, Uade. And good morning, Lagos.
Is it sunny out there?
It's a wet month. It's a wet Tuesday, actually. So, well, maybe it will douse a bit of the tension on the land.
Okay, that looks like it anyway. Our first story will tell us if it would douse the tension in the land. But let's go over to say good morning to Uade Ahimie. Good morning.
Good morning, Omatseye. Good morning, Chibuzor. Good morning, Lagos. Great to be here this morning. It's a really Tuesday. Maybe the heat will finally get out. Let's see how it goes.
It has to come back to back to back. Then it will chase it away. But let's go on now to let the listener also know they're part of this conversation, because we always love to get to read their response relating to the newspaper headlines this morning. That would be a good company we can use on a rainy Tuesday, and as always, to make it very smooth. But so let's get you to send your messages across to 0809 4440981. Once again, 0809 4440981 will be where you send WhatsApp messages to relating to the newspaper headlines. And then you can also race down to youtube.com/smooth981fm Lagos. That's the YouTube channel. Subscribe there, give us a like, leave your comment there. We'll surely pick them up after now. So let's get Chibuzor to start us off this morning, talking about tension in the land in terms of hunger and an hungry man being an angry man. Or your youths protest high cost of living, and that's what the Punch newspaper is reporting. And if it were to be on a rainy day, would that calm nerves down? But take us through the story.
So, on yesterday, Monday, youths in Oyo State, in the Mokola area of Oyo State, trooped into the streets and exercised their rights to protest in an orderly fashion. They went on the streets, and obviously the key item they were protesting was the increasing high cost. It's not just the high cost of living; it's the increasing high cost of living in the land, increases in food, obviously, which is the major thing that everybody requires in the land, and other costs that affect the everyday man, or what they were protesting. So they went to the streets, protested, called upon Mr. President and his team to do something about it, that this wasn't what they were promised, in quotes, when Mr. President was coming to power. And the presence of the protest in Oyo State is reflective of what is happening in big pockets across the country. So we also had some talk in Niger State. I believe there was something last week. I think it was in Kwara State. And as things go on at this,
wasn't there Oshun somewhere in the mix?
I think there was Oshun State. There was also Oshun State. I think I can't recall exactly when. But as things go around, we might get to see a lot more of these kind of occurrences. It's sad because obviously this issue is impacting every one of us. But it's what typically happens when people are in this kind of situation and they've lost all hope. Like not as if they lost all hope, but they somewhat need to vent and try and speak out their minds and show their anger. But for me, I would like to take steps back and look at that. This is not the only way for people to show their anger or their angst. And when people talk about promises of a politician before a party, I ask you what exactly were those promises? What questions did we ask the people who are coming to power? What questions did we ask the presidential candidates when they were campaigning? Because it's based on those questions that we hold them accountable. I've been in this country, especially in the last, I would say I think since 1999 when we went on the Fourth Republic. There were particular things where we had, we've tried a lot to follow the American style. So we had an American style debates, questions and answers, holding some of the candidates to give us their political agendas, their plans. We would say obviously not in every instance will a politician follow through on whatever they promised or whatever they debated on. And that's not unique to Nigeria. But at least you have some record of accountability and for future purposes where you have actually held him and asked him the question on how he wants to do what he's saying. So it's not enough as we had in the earlier republics when he said, I will give you free education, I will give you free this, I will give you this or that. The questions are how. And those hows are what we are paying for today.
Chibuzor, if I may weigh in at this moment, because digging into the story, and from your submission, you have mentioned that the anger or the petition is always, whether it be in Niger, it be in these states you've mentioned so far, it's always been Abuja, save us, we are dying, this is not what we promised. So why is it seeming like, is it like you're backing at the wrong tree? That's what it's looking like when you belong to a state.
So it's a mix of issues. There are some things so what we are saying always, like, it's a mix of issues. There are some responsibilities at the state level, there are some at the local government level, and there are obviously several at the top level, which is the presidential level or the federal level. Now, some of the questions that are being asked, for instance, and what are some of the factors that have led to the situations that are actually, they are macroeconomic issues. We are feeling the impact of removal of subsidies. We are feeling the impact of the floating of the naira. So those are actually questions at the federal level. So things like food subsistence or self-sufficiency when it comes to food and other services will sit at the state and over local government level. But some of these factors, like even some of the issues that have affected cost of food, that we mentioned them over and over on several occasions here, are things like defense or security. That largely sits with the federal government because of the system that we have put together in Nigeria today. So can the state governments do things? Yes, they should also be held responsible. Their responsibility to actually come out and try and assuage and find solutions for what their people are asking for, because at the end of the day, like we said, it's first the local government, then the state government. But what we do not want to see, or what we are beginning to see in bits and pieces, like places like in Niger State, for instance. I think it was Niger State where the state government basically closed the borders of the state and said we are not exporting anything now because we need to feed our people. And you are seeing that happen in some other parts of the north where basically foodstuff you can't bring foodstuff at particular locations. Now, do we want that to happen in a federal system where we are interdependent on one another? No. So those are situations where the president or his proxies, either his ministers, need to come in and have a plan of, what, I know it's affecting your people and I know these are your strengths, you are producing your food and you need to take care of your people, but we need to find a solution that helps every Nigerian. If not, for me, there are two sides of this coin. The positive is that we might have to start looking back at what is true federalism and say, what, everybody has the right to protect their resources. What are the resources of that person? And does the other person want to take the same thing of shutting down his borders? We might have to ask ourselves this kind of serious questions. But at the end of the day, the challenge is a Nigerian challenge.
All right, thank you very much.
And the president and his, at every level need to find solutions to this problem.
So, Uade, I believe you may want to just link it through something, shed more light into this headline of this protest we see. But it's coming across like the way the response now from the government or the authorities, there have been speculations that these protests are politically motivated. How true can this be before you get into the next people?
Omatseye, I don't know how true that can be. I really don't understand why people think that Nigerians are not hungry and we don't want to ensure that we're putting the right policies, not putting the right, implementing the right policies from an operational perspective to ensure that things are going on. We just continue to hear the sound like, this has been done, this has been done, this has been done. Things that just getting worse, and the exchange rate has continually gone down, which is a major focus of where government decides to make its economic recovery through. Subsidy has gone off. We haven't seen the excesses that have come from subsidy back into the economy to ensure that the economy is being stimulated again. Like I continue to say, almost 80 trillion in the economy, but we can't see the velocity of that money. And what you're beginning to see is to try and manage inflation. CBN is using all forms of monetary policy instruments to try and take down the currency in circulation.
It's amazing because see this way, a feast where as a village we decide to slaughter an elephant. Okay, I'm for conservation, so I take that back. Let's say a cow, for a celebration, and yet everyone that goes to who attended that feast, because looking at what you said a whole lot has gone into the economy, but we are not seeing it. So isn't that akin to that? So where will all these funds have gone to?
I don't know.
Okay. We'll wait for the answer. Let's pick up the next story, Uade. Let's get into this one. It's from the Nation newspaper, and it states here, federal government moves to avert nationwide petrol scarcity. That's coming. But then, of course, let's situate it against the backdrop of the National Association of Road Transport Owners saying they're pulling back their trucks. Is this connected?
Yes, it is. And I think what has happened over the since the removal of subsidies, in my own opinion, exchange rate has continued to go, naira to the dollar has continued to go lower in terms of exchange rate. A lot of the petrol that we're still using in Nigeria is still being brought in from outside Nigeria. So the cost of even landing the petrol and taking it down to the stations is continually increasing on a daily basis. For each time the marketers or the traders bring in petrol, exchange rate that is devalued almost on a daily basis. So you can plan, and this is what is happening. So the road transport owners are claiming that the cost of doing this business has gone up much more than than they can afford, and as such they're pulling out their services. But government is saying, no, it's a free market, it's it's a commercial business, that they should be able to work out those modalities. And the road transport owners are telling you that, but you are also the ones who are saying, oh, this is the limit that you can go. And that's because you heard from behind the scenes people saying that we've been spending about $1 trillion on subsidies since I don't know how long. And in my own opinion, and based on my own knowledge of that market, I do think these things are true. We can't be doing diesel at 1,003, 1,004, and petrol is at 670 naira. That's like half of it, when they more or less come down to about the same price when you look at the international markets for what they sell. If is doing as high as 1,112, then there is something that is ensuring that the prices of petrol is not going as high as reflecting what you call the market dynamics, and that's it for me. So at the end of the day, the minister stepped in. The conversations are still going on. I do hope that by the end of today, most of the trucks are back on the road. We started seeing a few of them coming back, and Nigerians should please not panic buy and just be patient for this to be resolved.
Well, Chibuzor, this next up story is for you. The Daily Trust newspaper, where the headline here comes across: the federal government urged to include vulnerable Nigerians in health insurance coverage. Like many other things, it promises, and this is in itself basic, you might want to say, but how come people are not captured, and how risky is it to fall sick in an economy like ours without any of this?
I was yesterday in the office. I was discussing with a colleague, and I told him that how the compulsory prayer for every Nigerian today is that pray that you do not fall ill in this country. and that was because of it. I was looking at a myriad of issues. The doctors who have left, and we're trying to replace resources, and President has been giving a lot of positive vibes as usual about replacing the doctors, attracting people back home. It's interesting because those who are here want to get out, so I'm not sure how quickly you can do that. And the cost of health has basically increased. I have some, if it was he's in the HR practice, and last week he was telling me about how one of the providers had increased their premiums and their costs. He pays on the monthly. Where they say vulnerable Nigerians, and a question I ask myself, Nigerians today.
Are you among the vulnerable? What are you vulnerable, right? With Nigeria today, are you vulnerable?
Every Nigerian is vulnerable.
See,
and it depends on what you mean by vulnerability.
Depends on what I classify myself. I'll probably be based on how much you're earning in Nigeria.
Yeah.
I earn better than a large number of people in Nigeria.
It still doesn't make me vulnerable.
But guess what? I'm currently covered by my organization who gives me a health insurance cover. But the reality is for most Nigerians, even people in my own bracket and my own income bracket, even who earn slightly higher than me, unless you're earning in, the kind of
your zeros must be good.
Unless your zeros are very good at like a minister or your senators or House of Assembly people. If we are all one step away from poverty. If you have an illness that causes you to go for treatments like kidney issues, like dialysis, 10 million, 2, 3, 4 millions a month, how much do you have in your savings? So that's the reality of it. So we are vulnerable in one form or the other. At least 99% of Nigerians are vulnerable. And if you look at those numbers, if I'm going to let's go back to maybe the basic illnesses. We're talking about the people who are poor. Last check, we're still looking at over 80% of Nigerians or 90% of Nigerians who are poor. So how many people are we looking at in terms of providing health insurance coverage for? How much does the government currently have? The government is struggling with its finances today. We are all aware of it. Those are the balls they are. So it's one thing to wish that we can do this. How practical is it for the government to do this? So everything needs to come with a plan. How are they going to afford it? They're going to have to subsidize it at some point to ensure that
insurance. I'm throwing that word once again, subsidy.
No, I was very careful not to throw it in, but it's the reality of it. That's how. But because typically health insurance policies will come with pooling of funds. But at some point, if it depends on how you want to run it, you might have some injection from the federal level. But you're able to run insurance policies with pooling from funds. But how many people can you pull into that? And how many Nigerians generate some income that can pay a particular portion into that pool funds? But is it a good idea? Fantastic. Are we able to do it now? Or when are we able to do it? I don't know.
So we're expecting to read your thoughts relating to the headlines this morning on 0809-444-0981 will be where we're reading messages this morning on how the headlines resonate with you this morning. And that's enough time for me to go over to Uade. This next issue, I'm happy because it's how you ended up with this headline. One won't be surprised because you crunch figures. And the Vanguard newspaper speaks to it saying Nigeria's unemployment rate rises by 0.8% in the third quarter of 2023. NBS speaks about this. So help us make it make sense at this moment.
Well, so unemployment at the end of so first and foremost, in 2023, the NBS decided to adopt the current approach to computing on unemployment data, and initially unemployment that Nigerians were looking at between 33 and 40% dropped to about 4%. That was so he just took out the zero in front and dropped it to single digits.
The miracle of numbers. The miracle of numbers.
Well, the miracle of data, and it depends on how you want to interpret data. Exactly. But I think it dropped to about 3.1%, and then by quarter two we could see it. It's catching up to the reality of the new approach to compete. The teenage population declined from 79 to 79.5% in Q3 when you compare it to 24. What it just goes to tell you that the economy is shrinking. More and more people are not. People are dropping out of the employment market because the economy is shrinking. Businesses are shutting down. It might not be as fast and as rapid as people make it out to be, but you can actually. So this unemployment statistics just tells you how businesses are facing challenges. Potential employees are also facing challenges, because if businesses are shutting down, how do you get employment? And if you look at the data, what it says is that there has been an increase of 0.8% from Q2 to make it 5% in terms of unemployment, and this is, in my own opinion, is just going to continue. But like I said, how fast we'll get back to the 33 to between 33 and 40% that we had at the end of 2022, I don't know. But the obvious thing for me at the end of the day is there are fewer jobs there. There are fewer opportunities for you to even create your own entrepreneurship style of work for yourself, because the economy is just not growing as quickly as we want it to be.
Uade, thank you very much. So we go over to Chibuzor Nwaezeapu. The Nation newspaper is running with this headline: Federal government begins payment of ASU's withheld salaries. So this should come as is that okay? That's what is. That's not for Chibuzor now. So let's go over to the next headline waiting now, and that is Lagos lift suspension on Road Transport Association activities. That's according to the Punch newspaper.
Okay. Basically, the Lagos State government (LASG) has lifted the ban on activities of some of our favorite people, RTE and Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria. The Special Advisor Governor mentioned this on Monday. Well, they've said that they're trying to foster some peace and smooth working, build relationships, ensure that they work together. They've also dissolved their pet project, their pet project, which is the Parks and Garages Administrators Committee. Which was set to basically they set out to it was also replace
as it outlived its usefulness now.
Yeah, well, election season
that it wasn't for elections.
In reality,
yes,
they've been able to sort out the internal issues, be able to sort out the internal wranglings
in the house, in the NUTRW and the RITIAN,
to their in a positive direction that favors them, and so everything can go back to normal in quotes. Now, my challenges with these entities and the way, and what he was trying to tell me, it wasn't about elections or political, but there's a lot of political relationships in these things. These guys, these associations have a large number of people, and obviously in instances where we have seen them go have issues internally, we've had these fallouts in the society. We had fights, we have killings, we've had anarchy. So obviously every state, especially in the southwest and that I know of, are always interested in having a strong arm to control how they work, at least ensure that they are working in peace. But my challenges are what exactly. So some of these are trade unions in code. I know that the last chairman of the committee had gone back and forth about saying how they were professionals and people need to give them respect. And I found some of the things funny because he just tells me how we define who is a professional in Nigeria to be. But that's not taking anything away from the services that they offer, because they are critical for society to move forward. My challenges are that there's a lot of money and funds that circulate in that system, and we see very little that goes to its members. So one of the things that we talked about was pooling of health and insurance. These guys collect daily fees or tripwise fees, and the question I always ask is, what do the members get in return? The state government has not come out to tell us at any point how much do they get. Some of them, they say, well, it's a fee that goes to the local government. We've never seen any local government chairman nor state governor tell us that this is how much we collected from the NURTW, RTE, from the members as dues, which they collect legally. So there are a lot of questions that are above the surface, and a lot of them this is not enough time to ask those questions. But if we want them to work as a professional body, which the last chairman, who has moved to the center now in Abuja, kept on saying that they need to act like a professional body.
All right, it's still freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM, still picking up the local headlines, and the analysts are helping us break it down for better understanding. And of course, we also getting to see messages coming in. Just make sure yours get in before we close up now. But let's see the ones that have come through so far in spite of the network. We've got Joseph His message, and he goes on with this one. Nigeria can be likened to someone foodstuffs they, the World Bank, IMF, haven't ever seen to cook. The chef starts cooking without knowing procedures, and now finished food cook would taste. That's the mess the government have plunged the citizens, and the earliest the needful reactions have started to spread. Joseph Menye's thoughts from Silver Estate, Ejibo. And now I find who Ibrahim Zachary. It says the chicken have come home to roast. The failure to fix our refineries over time, which has led us to import fuel and have impacted on the naira. This is not rocket science. The system is benefiting from the fat cats, the untouchable. The die is cast. Zagzino from Jakonde Estate, Ipaja. Now I would find Gilbert's message waiting. Gilbert from Frestac says, on reaching the vulnerable Nigerians for health insurance, it brings back the need for a robust database of citizens in our local government areas. That's where
I agree with you.
From 5,000 megawatts. How can foreign investors come? What a big shame. That was his message this morning. It threw South Africa in there, but isn't there somewhere around that area? They're not going down there.
They are load shedding from a higher position. Yes. we don't even talk about load shedding because it's normal for us.
We are always shedding the
We have been shedding it for years, so it's not a problem for us.
So I want to say thank you so much to Uade Ahimie for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Why are you making me laugh so much?
And thank you to Chibuzor Nwaezeapu for your time.
Nigerians should calm down.
The rain, these are what's called showers of calm.
Let's it's
Gentlemen,
gentlemen.
there's this you can when it rains like this, you say for compale.
Okay.
That's it.
I can't honestly say that.
And that's the size of the show this morning. It's been freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Stay tuned at 8:15. It'll be time for the Grapevine Everything Entertainment. We're taking you there.
Nigerian.